Welcome to the podcast Life After Addiction and Indictment. I'm your host, Steve Cloward, and I spent most of the last decade and well over $100,000 on coaches, consultants, masterminds, and events trying to figure out how to reclaim my life again. On this podcast, I'm going to share the tools, the tips, the tricks, and the hacks that allowed me to forgive myself so that I could reclaim my life again. I'll be interviewing experts in mindset, leadership, entrepreneurship, sales, marketing, branding, and so much more. I'm glad you're here. Sit back and relax and enjoy the show.
Let's go! This is Life After Addiction and Indictment.
Hey folks, welcome to Life After Addiction and Indictment. Today I've got a guest who I've just been very excited to talk to because I've heard him on a couple other podcasts, and not only was I fascinated with his story, and there's so many similarities between his, life and story and mine, but more so just the quality of person he's become. And I was just really impressed by the type of man that he's become and the things he's doing to help other people. So today I'd like to welcome to the show Brenden Densmore. How you doing, Brenden?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
You bet, man. It's my pleasure. Obviously one of the things that has always fascinated me, and I've read a lot of books on and now listen to a lot of podcasts on, is near-death experiences. And, that's something obviously that's part of your story that we'll touch on as well. But, let's start out maybe, what was your kind of the one part I don't know about your life is like, what was your family life like growing up? Because like we've discussed before we started recording, you grew up in a religion, I grew up in a religion, and, what was the family life like as you grew up?
So I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness from the time of birth, and I kind of rebelled against it at age like 13, 14. I was raised by my mother primarily. My dad didn't come into my life until I was 6 or 7. Okay. They were never married, and my mom left him and raised me for a while in Massachusetts, and then moved back to her home state, Maine, up here. And I was, like I said, I was raised a Jehovah's Witness. And then my dad came into my life and introduced me some different things. But one thing that happened when I was, and my mom was a loving woman and, taught me really good morals. And I have mad respect for both my mom and dad. But I was sexually molested when I was 8 years old by a babysitter.
Oh, wow.
And, at 8 years old, you can be pretty trusting. Yeah, and he just, befriended me and spent hours just doing things that I like to do and showing me like firecrackers and which I'd never experienced, stuff like that, gained my trust and then sexually molested me.
Wow. So he's doing things, I guess, that'd be considered just grooming you, right? I mean, just getting you to trust him, kind of look up to him.
Exactly. I was like, wow, this guy's really cool. Like, and he's showing me all this amazing stuff, and he's a great guy, And then I end up being alone with him, being babysat, and the parents leave, and next thing I know, he sexually molests me.
Wow. And
that kind of tore my self-esteem apart at age 8 years old. So
I can't imagine.
Not even a teenager yet.
Wow. And that explains a lot to me. I'm going to let you tell it, but to me, that would explain a huge underlying piece to what led to addiction, most likely. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. Like, it caused me to second guess myself.
Yeah.
I couldn't even talk about it for like 3 days. I couldn't talk at all. I couldn't even utter a word. I was just silent.
Traumatized.
Silent for 3 days.
That's crazy. Did your mother ask you, what's up or anything, or what was
she did, and I remember it.
Really?
She said, tried to get me to talk for days, and I wouldn't. And then she said, touch my hand with your finger if something bad happened to you.
Wow.
And I touched her hand. And then she said, did somebody touch you in an inappropriate way? And I touched her hand.
Oh my goodness. Then what happened? I mean, did you end up telling her?
Yeah, we ended up telling her about it. And long story short, nothing really happened about it. He was never taken to court or anything, but we can talk about this in more depth later. But I ended up forgiving him when I was in my 30s. I'm 40 now. I think I was like 33 when I went through a process of recovery after my addiction. I went into the Alcoholics Anonymous program and worked the 12 steps.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Well, that's, people that are listening are probably like, man, how I'd never forgive someone, but the crazy part about forgiveness is until you're able to do that, no matter how horrific of situation you've been in, or somebody's, crossed you, done something. I mean, to me, that's about as bad as it gets, honestly, but until you can forgive, it's just holding you back. Doesn't mean you have to forget, certainly,
Right.
but what that does to your heart and that kind of that space energetically that just continues to keep you in is just really harming you,
Yeah. And forgiveness isn't about like letting yourself to continue to be abused.
Right.
It's not about, turning the other cheek.
Right.
Like slap me again. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that I want this person in my life, but what it does mean is that I've cleared away the anger from inside of me that was tearing me up and causing me to abuse drugs. And not only that, but when we die, if we go before God, I've released this individual for what they've done to me.
Yeah.
I've been able to process it and to forgive myself, but also to forgive him. That doesn't mean that, that he doesn't deserve justice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But what it does mean is that I've washed my hands of it.
Yeah.
And I release him from the karma that it incurred on him when he goes before God, if that does happen after we die.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it no longer affects me in my life.
Right. That karma is a big thing. So as far as, the effects that had, obviously, did you ever feel it at all? I've heard others talk about this where they feel like maybe they did something wrong, like they were, the reason for whatever reason. I mean, was that any part of it, or was more just, just the things that destroyed in confidence and everything, that made you question and obviously lack trust?
Yeah. I remember the thought as a kid that maybe something was wrong with me.
Oh, wow.
Maybe I caused it. Maybe there was something wrong with me that this happened. Also, it, caused me to question my faith in humanity.
I'll bet.
So people aren't trustworthy, apparently. That's a hard thing for an 8-year-old to wrap their head around.
I'll say, and that's a brutal one to overcome, because I mean, if you can't trust humanity, that's going to be a huge setback throughout life. I mean,
absolutely. Yeah. And then when I went to school, I went to school going into middle school, I had been sexually abused, self-esteem issues, questioning humanity, questioning myself, self-doubt, self-esteem issues. And I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. So I'd never saluted the flag in school.
Oh, wow.
And I live in a state that per capita, it's one of the most patriotic states. A lot of people go into the military here. So the kids were coming from patriotic type families. And maybe I was an easy target because, hey, he's different. He doesn't salute the flag. He doesn't go to extracurricular activities. He doesn't celebrate birthdays, doesn't celebrate holidays. So this guy's different. Let's pick on him, right?
Oh,
so,
were you like the only J-dubs, what I call it, in the school then?
Definitely in my grade.
That had to be brutal.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. I was picked on horribly.
I can imagine.
Just relentless, not just verbal, and mental, emotional, but also physical, just beaten up, getting in fights. And it really caused me to hate school.
Oh, I'll bet.
As a teenager, my mom would beg me, come on, get out of bed, go to school. And I'm just not having it.
You bailed out in 9th grade, didn't you?
I did. I dropped out in the 9th grade. And what a relief.
Oh, I'll bet. I mean, that had to be so brutal trying to wake up to face that every single day. I mean, yeah, no wonder you stopped going to school. I don't know who wouldn't.
Yeah, I really rebelled against every kind of authority you could imagine. Parents, religion, education, just rebelled, and my escape was drugs.
Wow.
And
So
the party scene, you know?
yeah, when did you get introduced to drugs, or kind of when did that start?
That started at age 13, 14. I was actually diagnosed with Crohn's disease and sacroiliac spondylitis at age 14.
Yeah.
So they put me on opiates for the pain.
Yeah, I know how painful those stomach cramps are. They're brutal because, yeah, as we talked,
You mentioned that, were you
Crohn's as
diagnosed with
well.
Crohn's disease as well, Steve?
Yep, but not until they cut me open to do an appendectomy. And I mentioned before we started recording, I came off my Mormon mission 3.5 months in, and 2 nights later I'm in the ER, and they ended up cutting out 16 inches of my small bowel when they went in to do the appendectomy, and it was ulcerated and perforated, and that's when I was diagnosed. But yeah, that's painful stuff, man.
It certainly is.
Yeah. So that started the opiates for you?
That started the opiates, yeah.
Same here.
So yeah, from age 14 into my early 30s.
Jeez. And if I remember right, listening to some other podcasts like me, you were fairly functioning addict, right? And were able to pretty much hide it pretty well.
Yeah.
So crazy.
I was functioning addict. I went to Vassar College. I, won a full scholarship and went there for 4 years. And I don't know how many people know about Vassar, but it's an Ivy League school.
Oh, yeah.
Not bad for a high school dropout who believed he was stupid.
Yeah. And you went a straight 4.0, didn't you? There.
Yeah.
Just insane.
Yep. I took 2 classes during a summer intensive program at Vassar and aced both courses.
When did that start? I mean, imagine you started to have some confidence building already prior, but I mean, things like that really do a lot for the confidence, when someone's been at the levels that you were at.
Yeah. When I was 21, I was in a bad fist fight. Alcohol was involved.
Okay.
And I guess you could say that was my first near-death experience. I just experienced total blackout. He kicked me in the face multiple times with steel-toed boots.
Oh gosh, you're probably lucky to be alive.
I was lucky to be alive. I went to the doctor the next day. He said, Brandon, if he had put 3 more pounds of pressure behind that last kick, it would have gone into your brain and you'd be dead.
Wow.
So after that, I started questioning my identity. And I questioned the idea that I'm stupid.
Yeah.
Wow. That I'm going to go nowhere in life. And started studying like self-help books, things about spirituality and whatnot, everything I could get my hands on. Yeah. And discovered, wow, like I'm interested in this and I love studying it. So how can I be stupid, but yet love studying?
Yeah. Well, it just shows like, if you're not in the right place, obviously you had a bunch of things going against you as a kid, but also, at least the way I experience school is, is if it's not something that you're interested in, or if it's frankly just kind of BS and stupid, then that's why we don't think we are smart or don't want to learn.
Right. The educational system needs to understand that,
Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. So what happened with your, near-death experience during that fight? What took place?
I experienced a total blackout. It was just total blackness, the absence of everything, nothing. Wow. And yet somehow I was experiencing it. Right? Yeah. I still remember it. So, but it might be, you might think of it as something that Martin Heidegger talks about in his book, Being in Time. He says that many people, when they come to an enlightenment, realize the possibility of their own non-existence.
Jeez.
So that's what happened when I was in that fist fight is, wow, like I could be dead anytime. And where's my life going? What direction is my life going in?
Yeah, no kidding.
So after that, I studied all these self-help books, spirituality, and went and got my GED. And then after that, enrolled in a community college, got a 2-year degree there. And then I went into this program, Exploring Transfer. It's administered through the community college system. And they send community college students for 6 weeks to Vassar College.
Wow.
So they can experience what it's like to go to an Ivy League liberal arts college.
Wow. What age were you when this happened?
She said that was back in 2008.
Okay.
When I went to Vassar for that summer program. And then I believe in 2009, I went there as a full-time student. It wasn't my first choice. I applied to Harvard.
Uh-huh.
I applied to Harvard. I got to give myself a pat on the back for that because, man, I believed I was stupid, that I was going nowhere in life.
Now you're applying for Harvard. Yeah.
And then now I'm applying for Harvard, but they have the prerequisite that you have to have a high school diploma.
Oh, the GED didn't work, huh?
GED didn't work. Wasn't good enough.
Wow.
So applied to Vassar and they accepted me, gave me a scholarship, and then graduated from there. But what people didn't realize is that I was addicted to opiates really bad during this whole time.
That is so, yeah. I mean, I get it. But yeah, that doesn't make sense to people that have never been there. That's just fascinating. So what was your focus at that time, through the college? What were you focused on?
I started out like I was interested in chemistry and science and religion. I had a lot of different interests when I first enrolled at Vassar, and I ended up focusing on philosophy because it really kind of tried to tackle the deep questions that I had, and I just loved it. So I graduated with a 4-year philosophy degree.
Oh, that's killer. Wow. All right. So now you're still using, right?
Yeah.
You're still using pretty heavy.
Using pretty heavy.
I know where you ended up drug wise, but kind of was just your opiate pills, prescriptions. That was what, when you were prescribed, that's what you're taking. But obviously as things work with addicts, we take more than we're prescribed. We run out early. Did you buy pills and stuff? What a
nightmare.
Heroin right away? Oh, isn't that, I mean, when you look at that, that is a full-time job chasing that shit.
It is.
It's crazy, the insanity.
And when you go into the withdrawal.
Oh, yeah.
And the
keeps us there.
The anxiety and the depression and the life problems screaming.
Yeah.
Nothing seems right. You can't think clearly. You don't have energy.
Don't sleep.
You can't sleep. You don't get along with people.
Yeah.
You're irritable. It's hell.
It is. That's why we keep using, because it's so hard to get through that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I was prescribed opiates. I would take too many, in a vicious pattern of taking too many. My prescription runs out. Now I need to find it from a friend. At Vassar, first I realized that the opiates didn't just treat my physical pain. It helped my emotional pain.
It numbs out all that pain. Absolutely.
Numbs out all that pain. And I think that's probably why I was taking too much. It wasn't because because my physical pain wasn't under control. It was because I was treating that emotional need within myself, full of resentment.
As that tolerance builds, you got to take more and more.
Yes, the tolerance goes up.
It's
a vicious cycle. It's a nightmare. And I lived that nightmare for a decade or more than a decade. And then at Vassar, I was introduced to heroin.
Jeez.
So I was in withdrawals, but decided to go out. I was at a party, and they were doing that in the back room. Wow. And I knew it was an opiate, never tried it before, but I was like, okay, let's do it. Just going to have a little bit. I know it's going to take me out of this withdrawal. I'll be able to have a good time. And then from there, it went downhill.
Course creators, say goodbye to intimidating software and eliminate multiple subscriptions and say hello to Backbone. Backbone helps course creators thrive with their all-in-one, easy-to-use sales and marketing platform. Backbone gives you all your automation in one place to capture, nurture, and turn more leads into customers. With Backbone, you get unlimited courses, membership sites, funnels, landing pages, surveys, and forms with our easy-to-use drag-and-drop features. That's not all. Backbone provides a full CRM and pipeline management, two-way SMS, workflow automations, call tracking, full analytics, built-in AI, 24/7 support, and so much more. Stop paying for multiple tools and put more money in your pocket with Backbone. Just go to backbonelms.io now to get your free 14-day trial. Backbone supports letthemlive.org to help defend the defenseless by donating 5% of each subscription every month. Jump over to backbonelms.io now to start your free trial today.
Yeah. Wow. So I mean, I'll let you explain it because I never did heroin. My brother was an addict as well. And, he went and used that. I don't know why I didn't honestly. Because I was fortunate and I was able to find stuff, but, just as, even though it's the same, because I was doing 30 𝐂𝐿𝐴 a day and crazy stuff, but it's, still the same, but yet it's different.
Mm-hmm.
Is that accurate? Like, as far as the way as an addict, something's already got a hold of you, but, as you said, it really went downhill. Does that mean it made it to where for whatever reason, you just weren't able to be that functioning addict? I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Well, so, let's see, how would I put this? So it for me, like, it would kick in faster.
Yeah.
It was just like instant.
Or did you get to shooting it?
I started out snorting it and then shot it a few times.
Yeah.
But it was more instantaneous than other opiates. Similar, but I liked it more. It would wear off quicker. You'd have to do more.
Yeah.
But it kind of puts you into a better mood.
Okay.
And I would do a little bit, but I'd do it all day, so that I was constantly in that fog.
Yeah.
But it basically drained me of my resources. So when I went back home, I moved back to Maine, got an apartment, and I was doing this drug, and it was just, my bank account was depleted.
Yeah.
And I like to share it. So I would buy like a big bundle of it and then had my friends.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big, yeah, I have no friends.
And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing it and giving it to other people.
Yeah.
And we'd just sit around and talk, and but it really destroyed me. Took me to a really bad place, and ended up overdosing in 2014.
How long were you using heroin by the time when that happened?
Oh, 2 years roundabout.
Okay.
Yep. I guess they put fentanyl. They're putting fentanyl in these drugs.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it was just a powerful batch of heroin, or if I did too much, or if there was fentanyl in it. I've lost quite a few friends to this drug because of the fentanyl.
Yep.
It's like super powerful narcotic that they're putting in this.
Frustrates me is, we get told a lie about a pandemic, but yet we've got a pandemic. Over 100,000 fentanyl deaths just last year and the year before. But yet no one's talking about it. That frustrates me so bad, But so you end up having an overdose, and this is when you had a second ND, right?
Yeah. So I was sitting in my mom's apartment in withdrawals for days, stressed out, in the living hell, waiting for this guy to show up. When's he going to get here? When's he going to get here? When's he going to get here? It's just it's like an obsession.
There's nothing that matters more, period. It's
nothing that matters more.
It's so,
they say it hijacks the limbic system.
Really?
So it's like literally you think you're going to die if you don't have it. It's like eating.
You almost want to die because it's so miserable.
Yeah.
you know?
It is like that. But anyways, the guy showed up and brought me the stuff, and I ended up doing it. And finally, the nightmare's over. I'm relaxing, feels good. And then next thing I know, I'm dying. I realize I'm dying. And then I'm standing outside of my body, like looking at my body on my mom's couch. I was in my mother's apartment.
Right. Dude, I've said this on other podcasts, and I think one fairly recent, so I don't want to bore anybody that's always listening, but I want your perspective on this, because I had a situation where I was one day going to meet a buddy at the golf course to hit some balls.
Mhm.
And you go down this main road, and then you come to the mouth of a canyon. I turn, and then you've got what's called University Avenue, and I got to go about 2-3 miles south to get to the golf course. And when I made that turn, and I'd taken a bunch of different opiates that day, I went numb from my neck down. And I don't know what, I've never really talked to anyone to try to understand this, but based on your experience and me listening to you, maybe you might have some insights, and maybe people are listening that's had something happen. But I literally saw my body in my car as if I was dead, but I don't feel like I left I don't have any, concept or feeling that I left my body. It was almost like it was just a vision or something, to the point that it freaked me out so bad. I was bawling to get to the golf course. My buddy's there, and I'm just a wreck. And so here I am, scared straight. So we literally got in my car, drove to my gastroenterologist's house, and I knew him very well.
Mhm.
And he lives in a gated community. I talked through the speaker system at the gate, and he had, company had some sort of gathering. And so here I am ready, like I'm scared straight, basically, right? I'm ready, I'm done. And he talks to his his colleague, who was an internist. And at this point, I hadn't heard of 𝐂𝐸𝐿. It was that early on, and this would have been, probably mid-90s. And the internist couldn't see me for like 3 days, so he told him to prescribe me 8 𝐂𝐸𝐿. And then he'd see me, and blah 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 blah. But yeah, that experience, it scared the hell out of me, but I've never really tried to understand it, honestly. But when you said what you just experienced, mine wasn't quite like that, but kind of similar in some ways. And so I don't know even what that was. If it was just God trying to show me something, that's where I was headed, or what.
Could have been. So what kind of an effect did it have on you?
It just, like I said, it scared me so bad that I wanted to be done. I was like tired of dancing with the devil,
Yep.
But
That could have been the purpose.
well, exactly. But then what happened was so different, because that, I say in my mind, that red light that I'm done. Then when that internist tells him to give me the 𝐂𝐸𝐿, I started to tell myself, once again, this all ties to mindset too. The light goes green again. I need it.
Mhm.
I had some back issues, and then the Crohn's wasn't real active. There was days and times, but I didn't need pain meds every day, And so I went another 3 years, with 𝐂𝐸𝐿 until I was done.
So your body went numb.
Yeah, it was so
What about
strange.
your head?
No, it was literally like from here down, I just felt like everything disappeared, but I could see, but
Interesting.
it was so
That could have
weird.
been sounds like an out of body type experience.
Yeah, because I just had this vision. I could see my car on the side of the road with me in the driver's seat, basically dead.
How did you get off opiates?
I did rapid detox up in Seattle.
3 years after.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were going through that process, or shortly after that process, did you remember at all what had happened?
Not
Previous?
really.
No.
I remember, but I never really thought about it,
How were you able to quit?
Well, I was done. For years, there was days I'd drive to work bawling. I was tired. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I had a mentor of mine in one of the businesses. I was running my dad's car wash for years, and he became really close. And he did rapid detox like 15 months before, and that's why I ended up doing that. But yeah, I was just done, and I had it, and I just knew I was ready.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was just, but it was 14 years of, like I say, I call it dancing with the devil. I don't wish it on an enemy.
Yeah, it sounds like an out of body experience,
Yeah.
or some kind of a vision that you had that maybe if you kept going, that's where it's going to lead.
Yeah, crazy. Well, anyway, appreciate that insight, because it's interesting. I've never really, it's come up maybe less than 10 times probably since, as far as like in a conversation, or and so I've never really paid attention. But once again, doesn't matter at this stage of the game, really. So cool. So you go through that, and then what happens? I mean, what was
Well,
that?
Steve, maybe it's evidence that there's some kind of a higher power at work.
Good point. And I believe in that 100%.
Like it was a warning, but at the time you weren't able to hear it, or you heard it, but weren't able to change things at that point.
Yeah, that's a great point.
What was your question? I'm sorry.
No. So when you then have this overdose and this near-death experience, what was, you said you were out of your body, seeing your body.
Yeah, I was out of my body. I didn't think it was weird. I didn't think it was strange or abnormal. And yet I knew I was dead, and I knew that I was looking at my dead body, which is kind of strange.
Yeah.
I've never really had a satisfactory answer to why that's the case. But so I'm looking at my dead body. I'm saying to myself, what was the point of my life?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, contemplating. What was the point of my life? I was sexually abused, made fun of in school, dropped out in 9th grade, went back, had a near-death experience in a fist fight, went back to school, then went through this scholarship, got a full scholarship, graduated, and now I'm dead.
Jeez.
What was the point of it all?
Yeah.
It seemed pointless. And I'm thinking, trying to find a point, a meaning behind it all. And it's not presenting itself. And then the next thing I know, I become aware of a presence in the room. Didn't see anything, didn't hear anything, but it felt like I was being watched.
Wow.
And then I was shown a vision. I was given a vision. And I was shown two things. I was shown all the people that were affected by my death. So all the friends that were weeping, my funeral, how it affected all my different family members. And in particular from that stands out vividly is my mother coming into her apartment. I think she was out in service, doing God's work as a Jehovah's Witness.
Uh-huh.
So she's out in service, comes home and finds her baby lying on the couch, a discolored corpse in his early 30s, pus running out of his mouth.
Oh, wow.
And she starts screaming, "My baby, no, my baby, oh my God, no, my baby, my baby."
Wow. So you're seeing that pain of your mother. Wow.
And there are people going through this now. It's raw, and there are people who are suffering. Thank God I was given a second chance.
Jeez, no kidding.
And I don't know why everybody's not. And the next thing I was shown was a future reality that I would never experience, where I would never, so I'm dead and you'll never experience any of this that you're about to be shown. And boom, 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 image after image after image after image. People who I was supposed to meet and connect with, friendships that would never develop, romance that would never happen, family that would never happen, all of these joys that I would never experience, and all of these people that I would never help. And it was just like I was in the holodeck of Star Trek.
Jeez.
Just the three-dimensional, being brought to place after place after place. And after that, boom, I'm standing back in the room next to my dead body.
Wow.
And I hear a voice, and the voice says, "Now your life is over and you wasted it."
Oh gosh.
And that was like a kick in the stomach.
Jeez.
And I just started begging, please don't let this happen. I can't die. I will do whatever is required of me to overcome this addiction. Please, God, I can't let my mother find my dead body. I'll do whatever it takes to overcome this addiction. And then just like that, I'm back in my body gasping for breath.
Wow. Did you have any physical feelings? Like, was it painful, or do you have any?
Nausea, anxiety, just a wreck, basically. And then I called crisis hotline.
Okay.
And they came out and they did an evaluation, and I went into a 7-day detox at a hospital.
Oh, wow. Wow. Because that's really interesting. Because, I mean, what you were told and shown, and wow. So you go into the detox, I mean, my thought was, unless this happens, maybe he's not going to see why see the reason to stop, or have that reason to stop, or be able to stop. I mean, do you feel like this happened to you to help you realize that, hey, I am going to get over this, and I'm going to live a life that's worthwhile and impact others?
Definitely. It brought me into a greater sense of purpose and meaning for my life.
Yeah.
Because here I am, and I'm being given a second chance. It's like I felt like the kid on Willy Wonka. He's got the golden ticket, right?
That's awesome.
But I mean, it wasn't all sunshine and roses.
Right.
I still had this really dark path to navigate. But I was thanking the lucky star, so to speak, that I had a second chance, and I was shown that future.
Oh, wow.
So that gave me the confidence to continue to move forward, that there's something better for me on the other side. And then that continued to unfold as I went through a spiritual refinement process. After getting out of detox, I went through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous.
That's awesome. Yeah. Without AA, I would have had a very difficult time. It's that support and the things you learn are very powerful when you work the steps. So you still, I know what you're doing now, and I think that's really important to address, because obviously people, that listen to this podcast, have past struggles, maybe stuck, maybe in their middle of their use now. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, if there's ever a story of hope, I mean, yours got to be near the top of the list, and to show people just what is possible. It doesn't matter how bad your situation is, number one, because there's always someone's got it worse, and there is always hope. But when you're in the middle of your disease, it is so hard to see and or believe. Mm-hmm. And so I think, people listening to look to you and your story, and then to see what you're doing. So as you got sober, went through the steps, kind of what was the evolution as far as your the path you're on now? Did you get involved fairly quickly and understand that, hey, I'm going to be able to help impact other people, and start basically coaching and working with other people and help them deal with their issues in life?
I would say that in retrospect, it went quickly, but there was a lot of inner work that had to be done. And so I sponsored people in Alcoholics Anonymous, started speaking, and then started volunteering in the community, not of Alcoholics Anonymous, but other communities, helping people to deal with their problems. And I was going to start like a nonprofit organization, and that fell through. So I met a mentor back in 2018 who showed me how to start a for-profit business. So I got that set up, but I discovered that I needed more training. So then I went to a coaching academy where I got certified as a spiritual coach.
Oh, cool.
So now I work as a certified spiritual coach and a business consultant. So I help heart-centered people who have gifts to share with the world to manifest their dreams and also, achieve financial independence.
And that's awesome, because that's the thing, as I've kind of been down some of the similar paths from a spiritual standpoint and just learning more about, who we are and what our abilities are as sons and daughters of God, just that word manifestation and understanding what that's all about. And, because my belief is we're just energetic beings. I mean, we're spiritual beings, but, energy, vibration, and all that stuff is how everything works. And, a lot of people think, well, some of that stuff's kind of woo-woo, but it's not at all. And especially when you've experienced it, So as a, business coach and spiritual guide and stuff now, obviously, like you said, you needed more education, but my belief has always been, there's counselors I've come across when I was in my addiction. They're counselors, but they are never addicts. So to me, you're wasting your time. And that's not to discount them as individuals or their training, but if you want to achieve something in life, then you ought to deal with a coach or an individual who's experienced what you've been through, and then achieved what you're looking to achieve, because they're going to be able to help you get from where you're at to where you're wanting to go so much quicker. And so, for those listening, obviously Brenden has the experience and the expertise now. If you're looking to change your life and get involved to take control of your life and, and create whatever you want just through manifestation, but then also working with somebody, a mentor, there's really not words to express how powerful that is to be able to manifest. But I think we get caught up so often in this world in going through the motions and not stopping and thinking, what do you want in your life? Because if we're not intentional and we don't decide what we want, then it's like anything we'll do, and then you're stuck in that trap, call it rat race, call it whatever you want. And then you're living a life of unfulfillment, because I know that based on just a little bit talking to you, what you've been through and what you're doing, there's nothing more fulfilling than helping another human being.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is to me what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah. And like they talk about that in the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
My sponsor used to call it getting onto the front lines.
Yep.
Like in the military, you're on the front line, right? You're engaging the enemy.
Yep.
But in this case, we're on the front line. We're engaging the enemy, which is fear, resentment, self-doubt, limiting beliefs,
Yep.
all these challenges and things that get in the way of us finding, I like to call it the eye of the storm. So there's something inside of us that is still, it's peaceful, and it is positive, and it just sits there inside of us. But learning how to kind of tap into that so that the hamster wheel doesn't drive you insane, right?
Yeah.
And we're so bombarded by media messages that tell us what success is, and religions that tell us what to think, what to do, controlling family members, codependent relationships. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. The chains that bind us, that's the enemy. Sometimes those chains serve a purpose. Like when I had a resentment toward the guy that abused me, right? So that was, I've come to understand that was my ego that was trying to protect me from further damage, right?
Yeah.
So fear and resentment and these things can be useful. I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. We don't have to think of them as the enemy, that they're this dark, evil force that has control over our lives. They're a part of us. Right. They've developed for a reason, and they help us sometimes, but we don't have to be controlled by them. And we can get in touch with the spirit, like our own spirit, the eye of the storm.
Yeah.
And I think that our spirit is connected to the spirit of the universe.
I agree 100%.
So when you get in touch with your own spirit, your own eye of the storm, you're not a drop in the ocean. You're an ocean in a drop. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, it makes sense to me. That eye of that storm is so crucial, but yet it's so challenging in a sense, because at least my experience has been that, as my mind's going, it seems like, always kind of focused on the day and business, and you if you're not careful, it's going to tell you that you don't have time. And I'm speaking to things like just being quiet, whether you want to call it meditation, but if you want to be able to have any sort of option to get guidance, then you better learn how to be still, because it's just like in normal communicating. One of the biggest weaknesses, it seems like, is listening. We're always thinking of our response, it seems like, when someone's speaking to us, and that real listening is so powerful. And you've just got to learn it takes a lot of practice. I've still practiced and it's struggle still, but it's really important.
Yeah. It is important. Yeah, you were talking about listening, right?
Yeah. I mean, because even from a standpoint of, guidance, whether it's hearing, spirit, God, whatever people want to call it, mm-hmm. If you're looking, because I always struggle, and I had this story all the time in most of my life, that God would never speak to me. And I remember coming out of aftercare once, and my parents had come this night on family night, they could come, and walking through the parking lot, my dad had asked me if I pray, and I was like, no, because why is God going to listen to me? Right. Because I'm feeling this shame and this, I'm an addict and blah, 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 which is such BS thinking. But even if you do pray, if you just go through the motions and then end and then take off to deal with whatever you're doing, you're never giving yourself really a chance, to get that guidance. And so that's why I think just getting in some sort of habit, and even if it's only 10 or 15 minutes to start, to just get in a place to yourself, call it meditation, whatever you want to call it, and just try to be quiet and quiet that mind.
Yes. And it's like talking about spirit, God, Christ consciousness, Buddha mind, whatever you want to call it. It's like when you sit down and you don't move and you just breathe, you're actually making the choice to do nothing.
Yeah.
Right? You're really doing nothing. You're just sitting there breathing, because you have to breathe, right? To live. So you're just sitting there doing nothing. And that's like the difference between doing and being.
Yes.
And in our culture, it's all about doing.
It's just so true.
Do, achieve. Action. But it's all based on the mind and the emotions in the body. But there's actually another element, and the element is spirit or Christ consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And it comes from within.
Yeah.
And it also exists outside, I believe, in the outside world, everywhere. But getting in touch with that, if you can get in touch and be expressing your nobility as a human being, that I'm choosing to sit here in the midst of all of this hurricane,
Yeah.
of stuff that's happening around me. And I'm saying I'm going to do nothing. And I'm now expressing my nobility as a human being. It makes a statement to the universe that, wow, this person is human. And what better place to come from than that to help the world?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that's powerful. So as you have any, well, let's do this. What are those people that are stuck, struggling? Do you have any advice on the first step they should, let's assume that they're sober at this point, or maybe they didn't have an addiction to drugs, but they had something that in their past that's held them back. What would your number one piece of advice be for anyone in that situation that is looking to move forward and just take control of their life?
Mm-hmm. Every time someone asks me that question, I've been saying the same thing, and it is to learn how to become your own best friend.
Wow.
So instead of being your own worst enemy,
I mean,
and we use that term quite often, in recovery. Oh, I was my own worst enemy. I'm my own worst enemy, blah, blah, blah. Instead of becoming your own worst enemy or being your own worst enemy, learn how to become your own best friend. So be the person that you wish you had in your life.
that is great.
Talk to yourself with some respect. Give yourself a pat on the back that you've come this far, you've gone through all these things, and you're doing a good job. Cut yourself a little bit of slack.
Yeah.
Don't talk to yourself in such a critical voice. We wouldn't talk to our worst enemy sometimes the way that we talk to ourselves on a daily basis, right? So we're going to need to learn how to start speaking to ourselves with more respect and kindness. Don't be so hard on ourselves all the time.
I mean, I don't think I've had a better answer than that. And it's because that is just so powerful. Yeah. Well, man, this has been a blast, and I look forward to communicating with you, individually in the future, because there's so many things that I feel like we can just discuss, and
Mm-hmm.
two minds are more powerful than one. And, I'm like you, I just want to help other people. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah.
Life's already tough enough. And any human being that I've ever known feels best when they're helping someone else. And
Yeah.
it's just like when you said about the AA, when you're, because that's getting you to focus on it, or being a sponsor is, I guess, what I was meaning.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a sponsor, you're helping someone else. That's one of the most powerful ways to, especially after your first year, because you shouldn't sponsor anyone prior to that. But, that is a huge piece to help you stay on track and focused in your sobriety, because it's so powerful,
Absolutely,
And
Steve. Yeah.
serving other people is what it's all about. And we need more love in this world. We need to understand that we are so much more alike than we are different, and not buy into the BS we're fed, and just, we all have flaws. We all make mistakes. We're all jackasses at times, but you know what? We're all brothers and sisters. And so we need to just help each other and just get past the garbage. But
Yeah. Finding meaning and purpose.
yes, that's huge.
And like when you go through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says there that, that the steps are designed to give you a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
Right? So what is the spiritual awakening? Well, you're being prepared by having your resentments removed, your fears have been faced and removed. You're confronting all of this darkness, doing all the shadow work on the inside of your own psychology. And why? Because now you get to be an agent of the divine.
Yeah.
So you get to spread those things that you mentioned, the love and the compassion that this world needs.
Yeah.
You get to become a channel of that in the world. And what more powerful meaning and purpose could you have than to be something that's acting on behalf of Christ consciousness, Buddha mind, whatever you want to call it, spirit. You get to help other people, and it's wonderful. I just want to say that if you if you want to reach out to me, that's fine. Feel free to do so. I went from being addicted to heroin, having no money in the bank, surrounded by false friends, a victim of sexual molestation that hated the world, to someone who is happily married, a 10-month-old child, money in the bank, successful business, self-confidence, self-esteem, and I believe that you can do it too. So if you want to talk to me about that, let's talk.
Definitely reach out to Branden. In fact, I'll have links in the show notes, folks, so that you can find him on Facebook. Is there anywhere else, Branden, besides Facebook to reach out to you that you want me to?
A good way is Coach Brenden Densmore at Gmail.
Okay, perfect. I got that.
Branden is Branden. Coach Brenden Densmore at Gmail. Shoot me a message. I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Awesome. Man, this has been a pleasure. This has been a fascinating one, and one that I just really hits hard with me because there's so many similarities. It's just shocking. But we appreciate your time. It's a Saturday, and so thanks for taking time out. And
Steve, thank you so much for having me on, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing. You are an amazing guy. We haven't known each other very long, but I'm so happy to have met you. Keep up the great work.
Likewise, brother. I appreciate it. So we'll stay in touch. Thanks so much. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you.
Folks, thanks for tuning in. If you feel like there's value in this podcast, or please share it with family or friends that might find value in it, and please jump on over to Apple. Give us a 5-star review so that the algorithm will do its thing and people will be able to find this episode, so that Brenden is his episode is found, so people that are looking for something that can really impact them, they'll find this. Thanks for listening, and have a fantastic day.